It's been about 20 years since I've last played Super Mario Sunshine, and while I have beaten the game and I enjoyed it, I've never actually completed it 100%. So today, we're not only going to fix that by 100%ing the game, but we're going to go one step further and master the Retro Achievement set too. The main game is straightforward enough. To beat it, you simply have to complete Episode 7 in each of the 7 main courses to trigger the flood and unlock the final area where you defeat Bowser. Then for a standard 100% completion, you have a total of 120 shines, 24 of which are from finding all 240 blue coins. And then Retro Achievements provides a whopping 148 achievements in the main set, many of which will be tied to standard 100% progress and might not be fully discussed as a result, but many more achievements in the set involve additional collectibles to track, exploring unique mechanics, and most importantly, collecting shines in unique ways to distinctly challenge your platforming abilities and even your problem-solving skills. On a final note though, this video won't serve as a guide for the individual shines or blue coins themselves, but rather just the Retro Achievement set. There are plenty of good guides out there for those, and I don't want this video to be 2 hours long. So with all that said, let's begin. We get through the intro and get both our first shine and first achievement, but before we open up Bianco Hills, we have our first of only 4 missable achievements in the entire set, the Pianta Paradox. Much later in the game, this Pianta here needs rescuing, and he rewards you with a blue coin for doing so. So to get this achievement, you need to save him now. But how do you save someone who clearly doesn't need any saving yet? By using Mario's body as a paintbrush to trap the Pianta in the goop as he walks by, and then generously saving him from the mess that you caused to get the blue coin early. Pretty neat, I never knew you could do that. And while we're on the topic of missables, I may as well cover the other 3 in the set sooner rather than later, so that anyone using this as a guide doesn't find out after it's too late. And 2 of these are actually obtainable right away. There are 4 1-ups in Delfino Plaza, and collecting them all in one visit nets you another achievement. They are all easy to find, but you have to do it before the flood occurs because the layout of Delfino Plaza changes slightly afterwards. Then you have Peak to Peak, which is collecting the West Bell Tower Shine Sprite without the hover nozzle. Easy enough, just side flip up an adjacent building, use the spray nozzle from a distance, and then collect it from the sewer. And lastly, after you unlock Yoshi, collect the East Bell Tower Shine with only Yoshi by spin jumping up to the tower, spin jumping up as high as you can, and dismounting off. Just like the good old days. And after you get those 4 achievements, everything else in the Retro Achievement set can be obtained whenever you feel like. So moving on, defeat the first Goopy Piranha for another achievement, stop Shadow Mario, and enter level 1, Bianco Hills. Each of the main courses will have a standard set of achievements for beating all 8 episodes, collecting the 100 coin shine, finding the 2 secret shines, collecting all of the blue coins, finding every 1-up, and collecting both the rocket and turbo nozzle in each level. And additionally, each level is going to have its own unique set of challenges. Starting off, you have several immediately available that you could either do separately or lump all together. Defeating PD Piranha in episode 1 instead of 2 by continuing on to the windmill is incredibly easy. But if you're a seasoned veteran who understands some more advanced movement tech, you can combine it with the spin cycle achievement now, which you unlock by initiating the fight without using the windmill platforms or the hover nozzle. To do so, you have to lure this spider to you by jumping, spraying to freeze it, and then bouncing all the way up to where the windmill platforms are. After that is when the real challenge begins, because you're going to have to wall kick and probably spin jump your way all the way up to the center area to start the boss fight. And this is the precise reason why a newer player may want to tackle this achievement much later after they've got a grasp on the advanced mechanics. Because it's actually one of the harder achievements in the entire set. The set's creator, TimeNo, does this by jumping up the right side, but I found it much easier to use the left side. But after that harder achievement, you can get a much simpler one in episode 5 by falling asleep with PD Piranha instead. Next up, let's talk about the obstacle course stages. I mentioned that every main course has a 1-up challenge achievement, but this applies to the obstacle courses as well. You can easily grab these later once you return with Flood, and some later levels in the game will actually require you to use Flood to get all the 1-ups anyways. For the Hillside Cave secret, there's 2 1-ups to find, neither of which are too difficult to reach, but then there's a separate challenge in which you gotta bring out your inner Panenkoic and not use a standard jump with Mario at all. The first segment involves you diving and recovering to grab each ledge, and doing it at an angle can prevent a bonk from knocking you into the abyss, making it easy enough. Section 2 with the blocks is even easier, making the final segment with the spinning stars the only hard part. It requires a well-timed series of dives, and it took me a few tries, but it's more than doable. Then moving on to Secret of the Dirty Lake, you have what I thought would initially be one of the harder achievements, reaching the entrance without swimming or using Flood. TimeNo's demonstration involved using a triple jump plus Y-cam, more on that technique later. But I struggled on this a lot. Triple jumps and spin jumps weren't doing it for me, and then I saw a comment by the user Grenade, saying you only need to do a standard dive. I gave it a shot by lining up, and I not only made it on my first try, but I almost completely overshot it too, thus making this achievement so much easier than it first appeared. Once inside, we grab our 1-ups, and then once we get flood back, we have another platforming challenge. Up, up, and away, collecting the shine sprite without touching any of the moving platforms for more than 1 second, and without using the rocket storage glitch. Section 1 is easy enough. Section 2 is more like an advanced Corona mountain, still not too hard and you can ground pound to stop your movement. But Section 3 took me a few tries. The keys are the timing and the key rule of a 1 second time limit on the platforms. Wait for this blue platform here to be near you. Immediately spin jump off the blue platform, and then use the rocket nozzle again to reach the very end. And then with that done, the remaining achievements in this level are all pretty easy. For traveling shower service, this Pianta gives you a blue coin if you clean them, and a 1-up for all future saving events afterwards, but he appears in different locations depending on the episode. Clean him in episodes 3 through 8 in one gameplay session for an easy achievement. You just gotta know where to find him. By now you probably found both nozzles normally, so then for the 1-ups, you'll have to revisit once you get Yoshi by clearing episode 4 in Pinna Park. You'll need him to eat both the green butterflies and the bees before collecting the last one in the bells. Side note, you need Yoshi for all the blue coins too, but I'm not covering those. And then for these final few achievements, Water is Wet, Tactical Reload, and Peak Enemy Design, can all be done elsewhere, but they're pretty easy to do here. Select episode 3 or 4, and then deplete Flood's water right at the very beginning. Slide into the water for a Tactical Reload, then reach max sliding speed for achievement 2, and then proceed to the Cuckoos and spray one until a 1-up appears, and collect it for achievement 3. No need to wait until Goopy Inferno later on. Moving on to course 2, Ricco Harbor. You'll most likely get the rocket nozzle in episode 3, and the turbo nozzle in episode 7 or 8 for that achievement. Blooper Surfing Safari then has an achievement for completing the race with the purple blooper, which isn't hard as long as you jump over these final turns to compensate for the poor steering. Then episode 3 has an achievement for getting the shine without using any scaffolding or the rocket nozzle, and it can be easily obtained by making your way to this crane and then hovering underneath to grab underneath and flip your way up to the shine. Then episode 4 has several additional achievements for it. The first one is pretty easy, entering the lighthouse without using the metal scaffolding or the rocket nozzle. Just wall kick your way up, and then from there, both 1-ups in the obstacle course are in plain sight. The final achievement, however, is a completely different story. After you get Flood back, you have what I consider to be the hardest achievement in the entire set, and one you'll probably save for near the end, Trial of the Particular Mushroom, in reference to the YouTuber. Complete this stage using the turbo nozzle the entire time. These blocks are already pretty janky to begin with, but there are additional components to this challenge. The first one is the cycle. If you start at the wrong time, these spinning platforms here won't be lined up properly. Thankfully, this one's actually pretty easy to overcome by starting right away, and then every time they'll be lined up perfectly. Meaning that the second and much bigger issue is your water. You don't actually have enough to make it all the way across, but touching a 1-up will refill your tank completely. So you'll have to collect one of the two along the path in order to make it. And then a final tip that might make your life a little bit easier here, you can spin jump out of the turbo nozzle, which is actually an achievement in itself. And then you can combine this with the Y-cam, which you can use to steer Mario in situations where you otherwise couldn't. But even then, this achievement is brutally hard. It took me maybe 40 to 50 attempts before finally getting incredibly lucky. Here's the raw gameplay footage. You better believe I popped off after that one. Moving on to episode 5, there's an achievement for defeating Gooper Blooper without removing any of the tentacles. And this is actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it. Clean the face so that he attacks you, bounce on the inner 2 tentacles, and you'll have just enough time to pull the nose far enough back. If you end up doing a triple bounce, you likely won't have enough time, but once you get the hang of it, you'll never want to defeat him the normal way ever again. And then episode 8 is when we'll get the 1-up achievements. These 3 Piantas swimming will award you a 1-up if you talk to all 3 of them, something I would have never even thought to do before. Collect the remaining 1-ups for another achievement. And then once you get Yoshi, not only can you collect the remaining blue coins, but there's 2 achievements you can get with them. The first one's pretty easy. Talk to this Pianta while riding Yoshi, and he'll throw the both of you. But enjoy this small victory while it lasts, because the other achievement is not an easy one at all. collecting the episode 8 shine without touching any grass or metal platforms. Watching the preview video by TimeNo, I knew this was going to be a rough one. But the worst part about this achievement is the time it takes in between attempts. It's a random chance that the fruit spawner will give you the durian that Yoshi needs, and then every time you fail, you have to take the slow swim of shame all the way back to the fruit spawner to repeat the process. As a nice added bonus though, there's a leaderboard submission for how many fruits you get before getting the durian. I thought I had a bad run getting 8 fruits in a row before finally getting the durian, but then Darkside1305 got 29 in a row. But after multiple failed attempts from me, I figured there's gotta be a better way. It's time to develop a cheese strat. Get Yoshi as durian and dismount near the first 2 fish. Run back to the fruit spawner and then grab either a coconut or banana. Place the fruit near Yoshi, spray the first fish as purple Yoshi, and then eat the coconut or banana before hopping onto the first platform. That one will remain horizontally traveling since you sprayed it as purple Yoshi, but the remaining platforms that you create with pink Yoshi will now be traveling vertically instead. Spray a second fish as pink Yoshi and spin jump to it, and then you just need to turn one more into a platform and you're good to go. And the height matters a whole lot less than you think. So finally, after multiple attempts, we're finally able to put this achievement and this level to rest. So then we move on to Gelato Beach, and this starts with a really easy achievement. There's only one 1-up and you can find it by spraying the cash register. But then you have Sand Bomb Blast. Start here on this palm tree, open up the sandcastle, and enter it without ever touching the sand. If you watch TimeNo's video, you can tell it's precise and has a very narrow window of time. This achievement alone could prevent many people from earning a mastery. And some of you may begin to wonder if you even have the skill set to pull this off. But then I read the rules and realized that it never specifies that it needs to be completed in a single cycle. After failing miserably the first time, I took my sweet ass time, bouncing to each cataquack, Y-camming to reposition myself, spraying the next one, and repeating until getting to the end before spawning the sandcastle a second time and getting the achievement, turning what would normally be a brutally hard challenge into a relatively simple and fun game of the floor is lava. Inside the sandcastle, the first 1-up is hidden in a nail, and the second one is right in plain sight. Then in episode 5, you have to beat Piantissimo's initial time of 35 seconds without touching the grass or using flood, which isn't too bad. Just climb the palm tree, make your way across the mirrors, and if you jump out of a dive on a slope, Mario will run faster, giving you a much more generous window of time. The rest of the course is pretty straightforward. And then in episode 8, you can tackle 2 achievements at once. The Rise of the Great Cataquack Army, and the Fall of the Great Cataquack Army. Round up at least 10 cataquacks into chasing you, and then spray and sink at least 15. If you're good at this, you can achieve both of these back to back. I was not one of those people. Rounding them up will have a bit of a learning curve, because they can bump into trees and boards, you can't get too far away from them, and hitting one will cause the whole horde to stop chasing you. So round up as many as you can, spray the horde, and then chase down the final few to sink 15 before rounding up the rest of the standard progress achievements. And with that, we're off to Pinna Park, where the achievements are thankfully so much easier than the first 3 levels. The moment you start episode 1, you can wrangle up some smoldering stews and ground pound 3 at once to get a 1-up for an achievement. Then there's a single 1-up on the beach after you get Yoshi, and a single 1-up in the park in this block in the back. Then there's an achievement for defeating Mecha Bowser within a single lap, which is pretty easy. And then in episode 2, we learn a pretty neat skip. It probably will take you a few attempts, but to enter the cannon without picking up a bob-omb, just side flip and dive with just the right timing, and then if you pull it off, you'll skip the fight completely. Then in here, the first 1-up is in a box, and then the second one is in plain sight. Moving on to episode 5, we have an achievement for performing a simple trick that many of you may have done before already, skipping the climb around the back by jumping from here and hovering through the Ferris wheel to jump under and defeat the giant Electro Koopa. Then once you get to the Yoshi Go Round secret, there are 3 1-ups, and just wait until you have Flood to grab them all. And then you finish up the level like normal, and we're done with level 4. So, moving on to Sirena Beach, which has multiple achievements, but most of them are pretty easy. There's a hidden 1-up in the box on the beach, and then in episode 2, entering the hotel lobby secret without water or wall kicks. Sounds like it would be hard, but it's actually incredibly easy, and I got it on accident right away. You don't have to land awkwardly like I did, but yeah, not much else to say about this one. Pretty easy, got it first try. I personally would wait until getting Flood for the 3 1-ups in this level, but then after this, there's actually 3 more achievements that can be obtained here. Similar to the Flamin' Stews, if you group up 3 or more Strollin' Stews together, flip them, and ground pound them all at once, you can get a 1-up. Depending on how many of them Mario's hitbox is actually touching, you can actually get more than one 1-up. Meaning there's an achievement for getting at least 1, 2, and 3 1-ups. And if you're skilled, you can pop all 3 at once. I was not that skilled though. You have to actually get Mario's hitbox to touch all 3, and it took me a few tries, but I definitely left this level with enough lives for the rest of the game. Then in episode 4, there's a hidden 1-up from spraying the light in the casino, and then both 1-ups in the obstacle course are in plain sight. Then in episode 5, King Boo has an achievement for covering him with all 3 colors of goop, so just hit him with each type of fruit once before throwing the peppers and defeating him like normal. Episode 6 has an achievement for scrubbing the beach clean, with at least 1 minute left on the timer, and without refilling flood. Pretty easy, I just did wide sweeping motions and got it on my first try. So then after wrapping up the rest of Sirena Beach, we move on to Noki Bay, which has quite a few achievements, some of which were incredibly easy and some of which were incredibly hard. For Noki 1, you have to clear it without revealing any of the platforms or touching any of the goop. To be clear, you can wash it away so long as you don't reveal a platform concealed by it. So because of that, it's pretty easy. Then for Noki 2, to skip the hidden paths to reach Gooper Blooper, just get up to this ledge with the 1-up, triple jump, and hover up to this slope. Then defeat him like normal, collect the shine, and grab the achievement. And then we have Noki 5, which definitely challenged quite a few players. Beat Piantissimo's initial time of 40 seconds without touching the water or using the hover nozzle. Thankfully, the timer is fairly generous. The strategy that I used was to perform 2 well-timed triple jump dives before running to the end. Some of the community members got pretty creative though. Some were scaling the waterfall and then spin jumping off the top, while others were driving the boat all the way to the beginning before starting the race and driving it to the end. So do whatever works for you. Moving on to episode 6, we have several achievements, and the first one is easy enough. Grab the only 1-up that appears in this episode, and you just gotta hover over it so the trap doesn't send you flying. Then you have to reach the shell without using the ropes, but a well-timed triple jump and hover nozzle makes it pretty easy to reach. But then we have the pure platforming achievement, beating this obstacle course without using flood, the rope, or the pole. What's frustrating about this challenge is that it's essentially one challenging jump, and then some basic wall kicks, and then you complete the level like normal. But that one jump is hard. It took me about 20 attempts to get it. But eventually, a well-angled triple jump, wall kick to spin jump got me onto the ledge. You might be able to pull this off with a well-timed ground pound or using the Y-cam to steer, but anyways, after this one jump here, it's just some wall kicks up and complete the level like normal. You're going to have to come back later with flood for all the 1-ups, so just grab them all when you do the 8 red coin challenge. Then for the 1-ups in Noki Bay itself, visit episode 4, 5, 7, or 8 to grab all 4. The first one is where the turbo nozzle would be in episode 6, one is right before the skip you perform to reach Gooper Blooper, the third one is where the Gooper Blooper shine would be, and then the fourth one is right outside the grotto on the seafloor. So after wrapping up the rest of the progression achievements, we're off to Pianta Village, which not only has a separate achievement on nearly every episode, but it also has an achievement for entering the level with only the hover nozzle. Getting up to the giant shine is pretty easy, and then for the last part, I just do a triple jump and then hover at the peak before turning around and reaching the ledge. Episode 1 has an achievement for completing it without stunning any of the chain chomplets, and just shoot them directly into the water without missing. Incredibly easy. But episode 2's achievement is a completely different story. Reach the flagpole while only touching tree trunks past the first Pianta. Now to be clear, you do not have to beat Piantissimo's time, and you don't even have to start the race, so you can complete this and then go back and complete the episode like normal. And if you fail, you can return to behind the first Pianta and start over. But despite that generosity, this is definitely one of the hardest ones in the whole set. I jump to this tree, climb to this leaf, and then the massive game of the floor is lava begins. So first you spin jump off and hover to this Pianta, bounce and then Y-cam to change your angle, bounce to the next Pianta, and repeat, all the way to the final tree trunk. Calling it brutal is an understatement. I had to take a break just because of this achievement. After dozens of failed attempts, I finally completed it. Or so I thought. The set's creator politely informed me that I made a mistake, because the edge of this leaf does in fact extend just past the first Pianta. So I thought I had it, but I messed up. But thankfully this isn't a commonly occurring issue, but after having my hopes and dreams crushed by my own disqualification, I took a rest and completed it several attempts in the next morning. And then after that intense challenge, the rest of the achievements in Pianta Village were all relatively easy. For the Goopy Inferno, completing the episode without going under the village or taking damage is something that some of you probably already did on your first playthrough. Run to the edge and walk across this railing to reach the tree, scale to the top, and then jump dive from this leaf. Nothing too difficult. Come back a second time, grab Flood, and then grab this one up here for another achievement. Beating episode 4 while standing on the dirt path seems like it would be hard, but it's actually quite easy once you learn how the giant chain chomp behaves. It will avoid Mario at all costs by taking the path that leads it the furthest away. So just free the chain chomp, grab the barrel, and steer it along the outside towards the hot tub. Splash it with the barrel, stand at the intersection so it runs towards the hot tub, and then grab the chain. Make sure you hold back at the end or else you may get yanked off the path at the last second. Then in episode 5 you can obtain the 1-up achievement on the way to the obstacle course. And then there's an achievement for completing one of the best episodes in the entire game without enraging any of the chucksters. Easy enough, just don't jump on them or spray them and wait for them to get into the correct position before talking to them. Then come back with Flood during the 8 red coin challenge, and then you can grab all 3 1-ups. Then episode 6 has an achievement that I thought would be pretty hard, but ended up being a lot easier than I thought it would be. Rescuing all the Piantas while only touching the treetops and red mushrooms past the bridge. I did 1 round for scouting and planning a route, choked on round 2, and then nailed it on round 3. Here's the route that I used. You then have a fun achievement for diving off the Shine platform in Pianta Village before wrapping up your standard progression achievements. You likely triggered the flood by now too. You could obtain Chasing the Bag now if you want to be closer to water sources for refilling, or you can wait until the flood subsides and then eat the birds with Yoshi. There's one achievement for beating Bowser, and then a second one for beating him with all 120 shines to view the alternate ending screen. You can get both at the same time, so what I would do personally is enter Corona Mountain, grab the 3 1-ups for the achievement, grab the 10 blue coins, and then save and quit, saving Bowser for the very end. The flood goes away and you can revisit the airstrip. You don't actually need to beat Bowser to unlock it. Then at the airstrip, there's an achievement for climbing the flagpole, along with a blue coin and a red coin shine for you to collect. Which means we're heading back to Delfino Plaza to start wrapping everything up. We already went over the 4 missables at the very beginning, so head back there if you need those. Then for standard progression, collecting all 10 shines, the 100 coin shine here or in the airstrip, and all 19 blue coins in the plaza will net you 3 more achievements. Then the 100 coin shine has a second achievement tied to it by collecting it while riding Yoshi, but not touching the boats. Much easier than it sounds, you just gotta spin jump out of the sewer while riding Yoshi. And then most of the Delfino Plaza shines that involve a sub-level have one achievement for collecting that shine, and then a second achievement tied to it as well. Both the Pachinko level and the red coin field have achievements for entering it with only the hover nozzle. Then for the turbo track, break the door without entering, swap back to the hover nozzle, and then complete the level without the turbo nozzle to get another achievement. Inversely, the super slide level has an achievement for completing it without touching the slide, meaning you'll take the turbo nozzle into the level and then jump all the way down to the bottom. On a similar note, the golden shine bird in Delfino Plaza has an achievement for collecting it with only the turbo nozzle. And then the final portion of achievements in Delfino Plaza involves some mostly fun trick shots involving the fruits. Throwing a coconut into this basket during a terminal velocity ground pound, throwing a pineapple into this basket from behind the third line, and throwing some bananas into this basket while backflipping off the roof. And then you have the fucking durian achievement, where you juggle a durian 10 times. These things already don't obey the laws of physics, so this achievement will probably be one of the very last ones for you to unlock. The trick is to first get as close as possible and then jump to kick it up. Then with each juggle, you want to have little to no movement input as you initiate the next jump, because the walking momentum can shoot the durian out. Each additional juggle will take slightly longer for the durian to land, and you do not want to be standing directly under the shadow as you jump, but rather just a bit behind it. My final tips are that the beach will give you a lot of room to walk, and zooming the camera all the way out helped quite a bit. This one took me many tries, but when I finally got it, I was in such a groove that I ended it with 13 bounces. So with everything else done, I turn in all of my blue coins at once, make my way back to Bowser, collect a 1-up from the Blue Bullet Bill, and then defeat Bowser with all 120 shines to unlock the final achievements, ending the journey and proving my mastery of Super Mario Sunshine. And I will say that after completing the main set and the coin collector subset for Super Mario 64, I've definitely come to appreciate the controls for Super Mario Sunshine a whole lot more, especially with the spin jumps and wall kicks. As far as the Retro Achievement set goes, despite some tough challenges, this might be a personal favorite set of mine. It incentivized me to finally 100% the game, it taught me all sorts of new things about the game, added additional value to the game with the challenges, and made a pretty fair distinction between completing versus mastering a game. Some of the challenges were incredibly hard, and some of them were frustrating to reattempt, but most of the hardest achievements not only had some sort of alternative strategy to make them much easier, but it ultimately did feel satisfying to improve and overcome them. And any of the complaints I have about the set are relatively minor nitpicks when you consider, overall, just how fun the curated experience was. So if I were to play the game again years down the road, not only would I re-enable the set, but I would definitely 100% it all over again. As far as the subsets go, I currently have no interest in the bonus coin collector or pre-peach percent subsets, but I do feel so prepared by the main set that I'm going to tackle the hoverless subset next. But until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day.